Hello, everyone. Today's lecture, we will talk more about the structure of sentence, especially we will focus on dependencies. So in the previous lecture, you know that when we encounter a group of words like our system did not show any other changes, you need to combine words into phrases and also need to combine the phrases into sentences. But in today's lecture, we will know actually each word is connected to other words and they form a kind of the relationship of dependencies here. So in today's lecture, we will learn three examples of grammatical dependencies, and also we will focus more on the processing of WH dependencies across different languages. So let's look at the first grammatical dependencies, subject-verb agreement. So in English, we know that the noun phrase like the girls has to agree with the verb wrong, and if we have the singular noun phrase the girl, it also has to agree with the verb wrongs here, and also we can observe this agreement in other language like Spanish. So like here, Los Gatos has agree with the verb corren here, and El Gato, the cat, the cat has the agree with the verb corre here. So we can see there is a agreement relationship between the noun phrase and the verb. And the second one is the WH movement. So for example, when we see the sentence, I devote all of the apples at lunch, uh, how when we want to answer the WH question, we may use, for example, which fruit to replace all of apples here. And here in the second sentence, you can see that it's ungrammatical to say only I devote at lunch. So you can see actually we move the WH words to the front of sentence. So that means there is actually a gap after the verb here. So in English questions, so we actually move the WH word from the gap to the beginning of the sentence. And the third grammatical dependency is anaphora. So you can see in this, the first example, Mora sent a picture to the newspaper. So Mora is a female, so it has a gender agreement with the anaphora her here. Also, you can look at the second sentence, Patrick, the owner, gave himself a raise. So Patrick is a male, so it has a gender agreement with the himself here. And also in the third example, instructors and the students should definitely give each other a break. So you can see the anaphora each other agree with the antecedent instructor and student here. So we can see there is a gender agreement between the antecedent and anaphora in English. And importantly, you should know that all this agreement is actually depends on the syntactic structure. So so you can see here we have a long embedded sentence like that I bought at the store from my friend Marto last week. The cat still need to agree with the verb wrong here, no matter how long is the embedded sentence. So the embedded sentence should not interrupt the agreement between the noun phrase and the main verb here. So in the previous slide, we have already known that in English, WH word move to the front of the clause. So you can see we have this kind of indirect question like Mora wonder which book Alice was reading. So which book is moved from the embedded clause Alice was reading. And we can also move the WH word to the front of the main clause to form the direct question. So like which book did Mora think Alice was reading? So which book is actually moved from the gap of the whole sentences. And indeed, we have already seen that the WH word can move long distance across many clauses. So, for example, we can say which book did Patrick say that David the Mora told him that Alice was reading. So, the which book can move across three clauses to the front of the sentence. So, so in this part, we know that syntax is based on the phrase structure and dependencies between words, and we know that dependencies can span short or long distance, including these three dependencies we have already mentioned: subject-verb agreement, WH movement, and anaphora. And these dependencies show structure dependency. So these are based on the phrase structure of the sentence. So in the second part, we will know more about the part processing part, how brain process WH questions. So first, we will know how different language have different kind of WH dependencies. So we will focus more on the English W questions versus Chinese WH question. And in the second part, we will know how brain responses correlate to the processing of WH dependency in different languages. So let's first look at the WH movement language like English. So in the previous slide, we have already shown that movement are visible at the surface structure in English WH question. So here you can see what did John buy, what is actually moved from the gap after buy. The second type of WH in C2 language is like Chinese or Japanese type. So the WH word in this language actually stay in C2. That means the WH word doesn't move. But some theory might claim that it actually moves covertly at a logical form that is you can imagine as a semantic content here. So here we have an example. 张三买了什么? Some theory might claim it actually moves like English, but it moves covertly but not overtly in the semantic form. And now let's talk more about how we actually process WH question. So in English WH question, when we encounter the WH word what, we need to maintain the WH feature in what, and also the semantic content between what and the verb bought here. And when we encounter the gap, we need to reactivate the previous WH word we encountered, and then we need to do some integration between the verb and the argument. And what about the Chinese WH question? So, Bill 想知道 John 买了什么? So when we encounter 想知道, some claim that 想知道 might have some kind of question feature or WH feature here, and we also need to maintain that until we meet the WH word. And then when we encounter the WH word 什么, and we also need to do some integration between the verb 想知道 and 什么. And next part, I will show some ERP result recording from EEG. So EEG is a measure that can measure the effects of changing electric field. So in this picture, you can see this is how we collecting EEG data. So usually we put a cap on the participants, and the cap has many electrode on it. So it will record the changing electric field. So you can see there is a scalp EEG. And then this is the topography showing that we have like 64 electrode on the cap. And this picture just showing that each electrode collect the temporal response. So it's usually cheaper to acquire and easy to analyze. And it has excellent temporal resolution, so it basically can collect data from millisecond, and it has poor spatial resolution. That means, for example, if you want to know which brain region activates when you process WH question, you may need to use the fMRI but not EEG. And here we will report the result. This is called ERP, event related potentials. So this means that we average multiple trials of EEG recordings. They align with the event of interest. So now let's look at the result from the English WH dependencies. So in this study, they compare these two different conditions. So the red one is the WH questions in the embedded clause, and the other one just that sentence without any WH question. So first, they show the result at the critical verb recognized here after they saw the critical WH word versus that sentences. So in this plot, you will see the negativity is on the top, but the positivity is on the bottom. So they basically show around like 500 to 700 milliseconds. You can see the red line has the positivity here compared to the blue line last sentence. So this is the ERP component called P600. So this may suggest we need to reactivate the WH word before, and then we need to do some integration between the verb and argument. And then also have the result starting from the detective until the main verb. So you can see the red line, the WH question showing the sustained activity, and you can see a topography showing the deep blue here. So this is called sustained anterior negativity. So this suggests that we need to maintain the WH feature and also maintain some kind of semantic content, for example, which accomplishes until we saw the critical verb. And what about the Chinese WH question? So in this study, they manipulate the different verb type. So for example, 询问, which might have the question feature or WH feature in the verb, versus the verb, for example, 调查, which doesn't have any WH or question feature. And then also manipulate 这些 versus 哪些. So this can result in these three different sentence type here. And let's look at the result comparing 这些 versus 哪些. They didn't find any P600 at the WH word. So we can see the line in this plot, the line of these three conditions actually shows similar result here. And then also have the sustained result here, start from the main verb until the embedded verb here. So you can, they also didn't observe any sustained anterior negativity here. So you can see three lines actually show similar pattern here. So summary. So in English WH questions, yes, we found sustained anterior negativity. They might suggest we need to maintain the WH feature and semantic content. And also we found the P600 that might suggest we need to reactivate the WH word we encountered previously, and also do some integration between the verb and argument. And as for Chinese WH questions, we didn't observe the sustained anterior negativity, which might suggest other two possibilities. The first one is that maybe we don't need to maintain the WH feature in 想知道, or there is a lower processing cost to maintain the WH feature or question feature in 想知道. So that we didn't observe any sustained anterior negativity here. And also, we didn't observe any P600. So this messages P600 relates to the processing of reactivation of the WH word, but not integration. Because in Chinese WH question, we don't move the WH word to the front of the sentence overly. So in today's class, we learned three examples of grammatical dependencies. These are subject-verb agreement, WH movement, and anaphora. And then we know more about the processing of WH dependency across different language. So you know two different types of WH questions. The first one is over WH movement like English, and the other type is covert WH movement like Chinese language. And then we learn some ERP components that relate to the processing of WH questions. So in the next week, we will focus more on the other parts of sentence processing. See you next week.